This is JG Hertzler. You're listening to NX7062 Podcast.
Yes, you are listening to the NX7062 NX7062 podcast. You're listening, you're seeing. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is, what is it? It's Monday, the 19th. It is finally getting a little chilly. You can kind of feel fall here in the air in the lovely up here in East Coast, New Jersey. I hope wherever you are, you're doing well. I have to admit, I'm a little videoed out at this point, just because I have been spending all weekend hanging out with Lambda Quadrant, as well as promoting the podcast during virtual TrekCon, which I've mentioned numerous times on the show because I was always so excited to be involved with anything that Ryan Husk and Sirach Lofton and everybody else over with the Seventh Rule podcast and Falling Tower podcast put together, because it's that freaking Star Trekky awesome. So that is where I was. And here is the good news, is that if you were busy this weekend, if you missed any part of the virtual TrekCon, like the panel that I got to co-host that premiered yesterday, Alien Nation to Enterprise with Gary Graham and Eric Pierpoint, Sirach, Ryan, and myself, which was just beyond incredibly fun. I can't even begin to tell you. If you go to virtualtrekcon.com, all the links to all of the panels are still live. They're still there. So you can check out everything that happened panel-wise. And that'll be fun for you. Just check it out and read it along with the comments and see who was there. Eric Pierpoint actually graciously, even though we had recorded a couple months ago, we recorded his interview with him and Gary. He actually was very sweet, and he popped into the chat yesterday. So he was actually talking and answering live fan questions. So I thought that was ridiculously cool. I saw somebody tag Gary, but I didn't see if he was actually in the room or not. Somebody might have assumed. But anyway, so that was this weekend. What else? Oh yeah. Randy and I were talking last week on the show about Star Trek STLV and how it was still happening. And then 3 days later, they canceled it. So they have moved it. Creation is still going to be hosting a Star Trek Las Vegas convention. It is no longer affiliated with CBS, which means that it is being called the 55-year mission. It's got a 55-year mission brackets a Star Trek convention, but they can't use the term Star Trek anymore because CBS actually owns that. So you can't say Star Trek convention. But I mean, it's going to be basically the same thing. I've talked to a couple different people. There are definitely, obviously going to be some things missing. Hello, Robert. As always, thank you for popping in. There are definitely going to be some, lost my train of thought again. Sorry, long weekend. Like I said, talking at cameras has been pretty much my entire weekend. There are going to be some things that aren't going to happen. Like those cool, the 1 year that they had the Discovery exhibit, and then last year they had the Picard exhibit. Obviously, that kind of stuff, which was brought to you directly by CBS, is not going to be happening in Vegas this year or in 2021. They haven't even said anything about whether they're going to try and redo a Voyager anniversary, whether they're going to do an Enterprise anniversary, which of course they should. Right now, the website only says that they're going to be celebrating what would have been Gene Roddenberry's 100th anniversary, and of course the 55th anniversary of TOS. And they already have a guest list up. They don't have a full website up. Anthony Montgomery and John Billingsley have already said yes. Connor and Dominic aren't on the list yet. Hopefully that will change, but we'll see. So that is what we know now about STLV. It is happening. It's also not happening the very beginning of August. It's happening the second weekend in August. It is starting on the 11th. It's the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, which my parents aren't happy about because that's their anniversary, but obviously kind of going to go for the convention. Sorry. I'll buy them something nice in Vegas. Maybe I told my mom, I said, give me a couple dollars. I'll go play in the slot machine. Maybe I'll win big for your anniversary and that'll be your present. But anyway, that is STLV. It is happening in August. I'm disappointed I have to wait, obviously, another 10 months, but better safe than sorry. Obviously, with everything that's going on with COVID, it's completely understandable. So, what are we here to talk about tonight? We are here to chat about Star Trek Discovery, the third season opener. Robert, I hope you watched it because hashtag spoiler alert. This is how I feel about spoilers, and I think I've mentioned this before, so I'm just going to say it again in case there's anybody out there that doesn't know my whole theory on spoilers. After 48 hours, everything is fair game. That's pretty much how I look at it. Just because if you haven't seen it in the first couple of days, I am probably not going to be the first person to spoil it for you, unless you completely ignore absolutely everything else social media wise. So we are here to talk about Star Trek Discovery. Oh my gosh, Robert. So are you going to be able to make it out? Robert's birthday is, I keep forgetting I can do this. Robert's birthday is the 13th of August. So see, it's missing my birthday completely this year because my birthday is the 1st of August and it was going to miss it this year anyway. But it's missing it completely next year. But that's okay. I will just save on my celebrating until I get there. Okay, so Discovery. So first thing that we all noticed is that the ship isn't there yet. Of course, they have to add a little drama. And of course, they wouldn't have had to have that whole wonderful, tearful Starfleet true believer thing at the end if she had found the ship first. So, so I get that. But we also know when it comes to me, I am always big on timing. Please don't draw this out. Please don't make it her not finding them not connecting until halfway through the season. That's all I ask. Because, you know, there's always the preview after the first episode is always this season on. It's never next time on. It's always this season on. So obviously, you know, she's going to find the crew. They're all going to be reunited. I am just not prepared for it to take episode after episode after episode. The Lambda Quadrant crew and I actually did a panel. And again, that would be on our page. You can find that on the Lambda Quadrant Facebook page. We did a panel about the hopes and fears for the 2 new LGBTQ characters like Randy and I talked about last week. We had kind of hoped that, and it looked like they might have introduced one of them in the season opener, but no, we're going to have to wait. One of them is a Trill. We can tell you that. We also did see that in the previews for this season. So it's going to be exciting. I think the biggest thing, it seems, about this episode of Discovery was that there is now a cat. Because I guess there's a meme or something going around, Spot walked so Grunge could run. So Grunge the cat, or Grudge, I'm sorry, Grunge. It's Grunge. Grudge the cat, Book's cat, Big Cat. I was just actually having a discussion with somebody. My cat Reed is bigger. I think Reed could probably take Grudge in a cat fight, but you know, anyway. But there's also some speculation going around that the cat might not be all cat, that it might be a human, a la Assignment Earth, the TOS episode, where you find out that the black cat that had been in the entire episode is actually human or humanoid, however you want to look at it. So that's a theory that's going around. I personally would just like the cat to be a cat. But obviously Book communes with nature. Book has a very special, that's the other thing. Book has a very special relationship with all creatures, great and small. And it would just be I think it would kind of take away from it if it turns out that Grudge was actually not just a cat. I would love it if Grudge would just stay a cat. I love the fact that Michael is running around. You know, the first thing that Michael does when she crash lands is she checks if it worked. Did she literally save humankind? Yes, but I don't want it to be a shapeshifter. See, that's the thing. I don't want the cat to be a shapeshifter. I just want the cat to be a cat, just like Spot. I just want the cat to be a cat. I loved how, you know, the first thing Michael did was check for signs of life because, you know, I have to admit, I kind of forgot that the whole point of them doing this was to pretty much save the universe and save sentient life. So the fact that, you know, she lands and she's like, oh my God, I saved everybody. But who do you tell? There was nobody to celebrate with because she can't find the crew. Can't find Discovery. Okay, but I completely saved the universe, which I think was amazing. What else did I like? I like the fact that to kind of make you feel at home that even though we're in the 31st century, the Andorians are still there, but they're working with the Orions, which is a little strange. I liked the fact that I am so used to, thank you to Enterprise, I'm so used to the fact like the male Orions are these big bulky guys, and the Orion that you see in the Merchant at the Mercantile is actually just regular sized hair, with hair, just a normal looking humanoid, as opposed to like the big bulky slave traders that you're used to, that we all got used to seeing. The Andorians got a little bit of a facelift, with ridges and everything. Not quite the Shran looking Andorians. But I just like that they were there, because that's, again, Andorians, Orions, Trills. We're talking classics. We're talking about, I'm sure we'll be hopefully introduced to, it's the 31st century. We got to be introduced to new species and new experiences. But some old classics are still there. There are already people talking about how this temporal war that they mentioned, the one that completely outlawed time travel, has to somehow relate back to Daniels, who is from the 31st century, from Enterprise. And how does this relate to the temporal Cold War? And yes, that's the thing. The last episode of season 2 does seem like it was forever ago. And I think that's part of the problem is I'm just not a rewatcher. On a lot of things, there's very little now that I rewatch. It's like, oh yeah, I watched the episode of Discovery, I'm good. But I feel like I probably should have at least watched the last couple of episodes of season 2 just to kind of orient myself to what happened at the end of season 2. It's like, oh yeah, okay, so the whole reason that they went into the future was so Control couldn't get a hold of the sphere information. And okay, yeah, now I kind of remember what was going on. And I think this is going to be interesting. We went from a prequel to TOS to something that post dates absolutely everything. So now the rules have changed. Now they can they don't have to worry about so much where they're stepping per se, because now they get to do all of this great stuff that it can still be considered canon now, but they're making their own canon because they're already up into the 31st century, which I think is great. Because she's carrying, instead of carrying future weapons, she's carrying antiques. Michael's got antiques. Everything she's got is antiquated, which is great. It's like, you're gonna shoot me with the antique. I love that line. It's like, yeah, this is kind of, it's very reminiscent of, Star Trek 4 when the birthday present, those glasses that Kirk pawned because they were a birthday gift from Dr. McCoy, but they will be again. So I just, that's sort of reminiscent of that. It's like, oh yeah, I've got this antique. Let's see I guess it's got value now more than it did when I was actually using it. But I think that that's great. I think obviously that was pretty much the only way they were going to answer the question about, well, if this spore drive is so great, why didn't anybody use it after? Well, now not only did they answer that question where they were completely killing the indigenous life forms inside the mycelial network. So no, we can't use it again, but nobody knew about it because now it was all like very Section 31, like let's cover up Discovery. So you have to figure this is why nobody ever talked about it in any of the other series, because they couldn't, because nobody knew. So how perfect is that? They answered those questions. Pretty much, I'm okay with how they answered it. A lot of people were worried about that. That was the big question. Well, all this stuff looks way too modern. Why didn't anybody else know about it? I personally think that they answered those questions rather well. I've got my guests, my favorite chat people are here. I got Domestic and we've got Robert, and I would love to hear what you guys thought of, of the season opener. And, it's going to be like it was for me with Lower Decks. It's like, wake up on Thursday morning, go downstairs, have coffee, turn on Lower Decks, or turn on Discovery. In fact, just got a new 4K TV, so I'm really excited because the visuals should be absolutely stunning now on my new 4K TV. If I could get it to work with my Alexa, that would be even better. That's sort of where I'm at right now. I've got to troubleshoot that. It's what happens when you buy something open box. You save money, but then you're sort of on your own to figure these things out. But at least in the days of the internet, I have people that I can ask as opposed to just sort of stumbling blind through figuring out how to set up my 4K TV. I'm just so excited. So excited to watch my Enterprise Blu-rays because I know they're only regular Blu-rays, but 4K is going to amp them up anyway. Also might have to go. Also I'm going to have to research if Enterprise is available in 4K because, but I'm just trying to think, I mean, what more can we say about this? We're just, me, you hang out with me long enough, I do not speculate about anything. I don't like to speculate. I don't go watch fan theories. It's honestly, I have to be honest, and this is totally off, the beaten path, but back in the day, like college days, Danielle Steele or whatever, that was a good read, lazy read. If I was on a bus or sitting somewhere and didn't have anything else to do and didn't feel like studying and I, my brain just needed a break from things. Yeah, sure. I'd read it. The reason I stopped was because they were literally all the same. And anything that I can figure out 3 pages in, who's going to end up with who, I'm not interested. And I'm the same way with my television. I don't want to be able to figure things out. I don't want to speculate. I just like to go along for the ride. So I tend to stay away from fan theories. Everybody's entitled. If I run across one, I might want to read it, but I just like to stay away from that stuff. Just because I like to be surprised. I like to go along for the ride. This is going to be a really short show if you guys don't tell me what you thought about Disco. Come on. I want to hear other opinions besides mine. Like I said, I didn't even watch during Virtual TrekCon, they did the review of Discovery. Like I said, we reviewed it as far as with a bent towards the LGBTQ slant, but everybody else I'm like, nope, not going to go watch it. I can't, but I will say this. We decided as a group and we were kind of backed up on our panel that if you got to the end of that episode where they started talking about Starfleet and being a true believer and finding the Discovery and he had never been the guy, I'm terrible with names. He hadn't been commissioned, but he stayed at his post. If you didn't get, some people ugly cried. I got teary-eyed. It gets you right here. So if you didn't get the feels from that last scene, we decided you got to turn in your Star Trek fandom badge. Let's see. Okay. Where Burnham got eaten was like MIB. In fact, there was a lot of references from other shows. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can absolutely see that. Now, here's the thing, and I haven't asked this of anybody yet, so I'm going to ask this of you guys since you're hanging out with me. That worm sort of reminded me, didn't they have a similar creature on Discovery in the first season, that whole thing? Well, I kept thinking that they were the same creature, but everybody else was talking about how it sort of reminded them of the worm from Lower Decks that ate Boimler in that one episode. So everybody's thinking maybe it's already a Lower Decks reference. I don't think that they were going to go there quite yet. Maybe there could possibly be, a Lower Decks tie-in at some point. Here you go. Here's a Star Trek story for all y'all, which absolutely killed me. I went into a convenience store. This was last week. I went to a convenience store to grab some lunch. And I was wearing one of my Pop Culture Hero Coalition masks because those are the only ones that I wear. And it was one that said Be Kind, and it has their logo on it. And for anybody that's ever noticed the Be Kind logo, it looks like an upside down delta. It's actually a heart, but with points. So it does resemble an upside down delta. So the guy behind the counter is very young, and he goes to me, is that the Star Trek upside down? And I said, actually, technically, I said, it's a heart. But do you watch the shows? Have you watched all the shows? And he said, oh, yeah, I've watched. It wasn't a worm. It was a monster. I swear to God, there was that creature on the Discovery that I think Tilly ended up like connecting with. But anyway, so the guy said, yeah, he said his response to me was something along the lines of, yeah, I've watched them all, including Lower Decks, even though that's not really Star Trek. Okay, I am in a line checking out. I've got a lot of people behind me, and I'm heading to my part-time job. All reasons why I can't sit here and argue why Lower Decks is Star Trek. Totally. But okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I said, well, so you've seen Deep Space Nine? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, do you remember Leto, the Dabo girl? He said, yeah. I said, well, Chase Masterson, who played her, this is her charity, and that's why the thing looks like the thing. And he said, oh, and first he said that he's like, well, you know, the Air Force has Space Force now, and that's where Star Trek stole the Delta from. And I said, no, it's the other way around. They stole the Delta from Star Trek. But he goes, oh, I'll have to look into that. And then he made the kind, then I said, thank you. And I'm trying to get out of line because, again, line of people, and I'm leaving. And he goes, well, you know, meaning Lita, he said, you know, she was pregnant with Dr. Bashir's baby in real life. And I said, no, that was Kira. And that's because Nana Visitor was married to Dr. Bashir in real life, Alexander Siddig. And he goes, oh, I'm like, dude, have you really watched that? No. There was another animal before that. It wasn't that one. I know who you're talking about. It wasn't. Okay, so let's see. Looking forward to continue Star Trek adventure. Yeah, I think they're going to deal with the future really well. And I'm right with you, Domestic. I am totally looking forward to it. The Worm, the Ravenous Bug, Blaster, Beast. Oh, Domestic, that's really funny. But no, there was another. I'm going to have to get off. When I'm done, I'm going to have to get off and go look. But I swear to God that there was another creature. It had something to do with the mycelial network that was on the Discovery. I swear, unless I dreamed it, which who knows? I mean, anything's possible. But yeah, so I haven't gone back to that convenience store since this guy who claims he was a huge fan of Star Trek, didn't know the difference between Lita and Major Kira, and thinks that the Air Force stole the Delta from Star Trek when the Delta's been around for a whole hell of a lot longer. I might wander back in there at some other point, but maybe I'll just wear my there's my Doctor Who quote, one that says, laugh hard, run fast, be kind, because that just has a heart on it, so he won't know that it's from the same thing necessarily, and maybe I won't have to have that conversation with him again, because the one thing you realize is you don't recognize people in masks. People, the Tartar, maybe you do realize that I say, like, every other episode I am really bad with names, right? So, but okay, guys, so you guys were here last week. I just want to remind everybody that next week is going to be the Halloween episode, and I am really excited about it because Randy has promised to join me again, and we're going to be able to screen his little 10-minute horror short film that he did, which was awesome, which I got to see. And I think I'm going to sit down and put together my annual list of all the cool Star Trek people that have been in horror. And, the list gets longer every year because I keep realizing or remembering that other people have been in horror. And I really think, that this horror guy that does the horror, the biannual horror convention, he just needs to listen to me. He is really, really missing the boat. He had Denise Crosby at the last one that I went to for a Pet Cemetery reunion, which is great, but and there were so many Star Trek fans there. I mean, I wore my Star Trek The Cruise 3 shirt, and people were like, oh my God, you were on the cruise too, so there were definitely could do, a horror Star Trek crossover. And I think that would just be like the most amazing way to go around Halloween, for Star Trek fans who also happen to love horror. Oh, yes, this is very true for anybody that doesn't know. If you look up, I think it's Thursday nights, CBS is running the first season of Discovery for free on broadcast television if you need to catch up. Or, because I mean, I have CBS All Access, but I don't have the commercial-free version. So watching it on CBS or watching it on All Access is the same thing. Get stuck with the commercials. So don't forget to join me next week for my Halloween episode. If you guys want to send in pictures of you guys in costumes, I would totally share them. Oh, see, look at that. Let's see. What do we got? Could totally do that too. You're right. Raymond would be so pleased. I'll have to make sure that he checks in and sees that. Thank you. And there you go. That must be the time for disco is 10 o'clock on CBS. So yeah, Robert, send me a picture. Maybe I'll, if I figure out how to share I know how to share my screen. So you know what? Send pictures and I'll play with the whole share the screen option and I'll do a slideshow maybe of anybody and I know cosplay is not Halloween, but it is the perfect time of year. So if anybody has pictures that they want to send me, you can send them to me in direct messages because I am everywhere. I am on Facebook and Twitter, and I would love to see you guys. Just follow me on Twitter, NX7062 Podcast. You can look up NX7062 Podcast on Facebook as well, and it will be there too. So, so that about wraps it up. And again, please go visit Virtual TrekCon and check out all the absolutely incredible panels they had. It was a 5-day event from Thursday. It's not even over yet. They're doing a last little go around of their vendor room. In fact, if you head over to the Virtual TrekCon right now and check it out, you can get into the vendors room. And I'm probably going to just pop over to our last Zoom meeting because it's all on Zoom meetings and it's awesome. And you guys should all check it out. And another thing, there's some other stuff coming up with Lambda Quadrant. Not sure if I'm allowed to say anything yet, but trust me, the minute I'm allowed to start talking about what's going on with Lambda Quadrant, I absolutely will. So guys, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Come back, catch me for the big Halloween episode, which is going to be next week. And until then, y'all, live long and prosper.
This is Nicole DeBoer, and you've been listening to the NX7062 podcast.